Welcome to Slippery Rock Sports Forum. I'm Madeline Williams, and alongside me tonight are Tim Durr, Ryan Noblet, and Bill Kostkas. Let's get things started for tonight's episode. Our first topic of the night will be SRU men's basketball beating Mercyhurst this weekend and locking up a spot in the PSAC playoffs. We've talked all season about the up and down play of the Rock. What do you guys expect from them in the playoffs? Tim, you can start the show off tonight.
All right, well, first I'll talk about them playing Mercyhurst a little bit. Mercyhurst was ranked number 17 in the nation, and they beat them 81-70 in an 11-point victory. Jabril Bailey had 21 points in that game, and Moran Brown had a solid game. So overall, that's what you need. You need those pieces coming to play. They have solid nights. You have guys like Devin Taylor step up, and they have a solid night, and you can beat teams like this. Mercyhurst has been the top team all year in the PSAC, and SRU lost them earlier in the season, I think, by like 18 points, so this was a good rebound from that loss. But now they face IUP, and that's going to be a tough matchup in the first round of the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with that. And they play them they're going to play them because IUP is the 2 seed, they're the 3 seed, and there's really not too much room for anything to change right now. So we'll see what happens with that. Go ahead, Ryan, you can take it.
They had an impressive finish beating Mercyhurst, especially because the last 2 games. They lost to Cal, who's free-falling right now. They lost 4 straight, and they got just annihilated in their last 3 by like more than 11 in each. And they lost to IUP, who's really the focus. They're probably going to be their first-round opponent in the playoffs. Their playoff prospects are high. If they can beat IUP, I think they can win the whole PSAC West anyway. So the main issue, is them beating IUP in the first round. And if they can do that, they probably win the conference.
I don't think there's any reason to say, hey, they're going to win the conference because, yeah, they could theoretically if they beat IUP. And I was shocked myself that they were able to beat Mercyhurst if they got their clocks clean last time they played them. But I was there for that game at home against IUP. They held Darrell Webb, who's arguably the best player in Division II, in check for the first half, and then down the stretch late in the second half, he blew him wide open. And as Tim mentioned, yeah, they're getting those pieces to come together with Bailey, Brown, and guys like Devin Taylor and John Valeriano, etc. But it hasn't been there on a consistent basis for them all year, and especially in both games against IUP. The first game, I think they lost by 30+. So it's going to be at IUP on the road where they lost bad the last time. There's no reason to have a lot of confidence going into this, although they probably should. The statistics are saying no, you don't. It's too tough a task for them.
I think one thing that makes it a little bit better talking about the pieces finally coming together. Well, as the season has progressed, there's definitely been people coming together, and I think a lot of guys are playing more solid. There's a lot more confidence in this team, and a win like that's going to give them confidence down the stretch. Hopefully, they can win their final games through the regular season and go on a real hot streak heading into the game against IUP. And if they can do that, they're going to be very well off to be able to win that game. And if they can beat IUP, there's really no limit to how far they can go because they can be competitive and beat the other teams that they're going to have to face. They could have a rematch against Mercyhurst, possibly play Cal in the second round. So we'll see exactly how that works out. I think their chances are about like 50%. It just depends which team shows up, and if they show up playing at the top of their game and they play like that first half they did against IUP whenever the game was here in Mora Fieldhouse, I think they can definitely pull ahead and win a game if they play a full 2 halves like they played that first half.
Yeah, and like Tim said, if you get on a hot streak, like look at any major sport, if you start on a hot streak, it might not be you have the best team out there, you just have the best team at that time, which sometimes is important going into the playoffs, going into the championship, whatever you're playing for. Teams like the Packers this year in NFL and just other teams have been they're not the best team out there, but they just dominate at the time they need to.
They were hot going the last time against IUP. I think they had won 4 straight, and they come up with they drop one of those duds. It's Moran Brown all day, and no one else shows up. They can't have that happen again.
Topic number 2 of the night will stick with basketball. This time we'll take it to the girls' team and talk about head coach Tanya Longo's first season with the Green and White. Bill, how do you grade Coach Longo's performance this season?
I look at it like this. I'm sorry I got to bring the Steelers into it, but everyone says his first year, that was Bill Cowher's team, so we can't really rate Tomlin's performance, and I'm going to do the same here. This is pretty much except for the few recruits that actually saw playing time this year. This is still Laurel Highlands team. I think we start judging Coach Longo's performance next year, the year after that. Then we start making judgments.
I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit on that, Bill, because there was a decent amount of people that they brought in. They brought in Danielle Smith. They brought in Marlinda Harlan. They brought in these people that are coming off the bench and a lot of junior college players who are in the starting lineup now. And it's really a whole new team, but the problem is that they're not used to the system. Everybody's new. The players that you had that were you were relying on this year, like Beth Caudill, she got hurt and was out for a good part of the season. So some other people had to step up, and you just have a mix there that they're all trying to find out the right system. So I think next year is definitely going to be better than this year. But this was definitely that rebuilding mark. It was that first year. There was no expectations really. There were some expectations prior. They thought, well, if that talent stays together, they could be like 5th or 6th if they play well. But that didn't happen. They really struggled right out of the gate, and they've struggled a lot lately. So we'll see what they're able to do here, and maybe they'll be able to pull it together next year. Maybe they can get a couple wins to end this season.
Yeah, if you look at their record the last couple of years, it's been going down and down and down in wins. And really, at the point they're at with 3-21 in overall and 1-11 in the conference, really can't go down much further than there. So really, they're looking up right now, no matter what. They can bring in a couple players, try to win some more games, get some of those games that were even blowouts to get them at least closer. Maybe not win them, but if you just get the games closer, start making a name for yourself, you can start to win some games here down the road.
Just to play off of what Tim said, it is a rebuilding year. I mean, they're going to lose Grace Pelusis to graduation, I'm pretty sure. They just need, as everyone said with the Heat this year with the big three, they need more chemistry, they need more time playing together, and that's exactly the case here. We got a new system. All the players from when Laurel left, they're learning the new system. So are the girls that Longo brought in. It's going to be a learning process for everybody. And next year, it's still not going to be perfect, but we should see improvement as time goes.
Yeah, I know that talking to Coach Longo, a lot of things she said is that she's not one for moral victories, but there's been a lot of games this year that they have taken away those moral victories. Playing a good half. They've just struggled with putting together a full game. That's been their main problem, and they've had a lot of injuries. They haven't been able to go very deep in the roster, so that's been a problem too. They play a close first half, and they can be competitive, but then they can only go 6-7 deep. The other teams are going 9-10 deep, and they're able to keep the momentum up, keep the pressure, and keep playing hard. And SRU just can't hang with them for a full game. They get too tired, end up falling apart.
And over time, you're going to see that change because she's going to be able to bring more people that she wants and that can fit her, her system the way she wants to do things.
And as you keep going on with the 6 starters, 7 starters that you shuffle in and out, you're just not, like Tim said, you're just not going to have enough people. You're just not going to win in the end. All your girls will be tired by the end of the match.
Yeah, and one thing is, I think next year they have some strength. They'll have a lot of those junior college players will be seniors, and then some of the sophomores who got some playing time last year, such as Beth Caudill, Alex Beatty, they'll be able to get in the system. They'll have 3 years, not in the system, 2 years in the system, but 3 years with SRU and playing these PSAC teams. So they'll be able to compete a lot better, and they'll be able to come together. And I think next year they're going to have a solid year where they end up maybe right around the midway point, 5-6 in the PSAC, or maybe they'll impress us and be a little bit higher than that. So we'll see what happens with all of that.
Anything else?
I think that's all.
All right, now we're going to break away from Slippery Rock sports and talk about what sports moment from this weekend was most exciting for you guys. Ryan, fill us in what was exciting for you this weekend.
There were a lot of great moments this weekend. There was good basketball action, good hockey action, but I don't know if you call it a sport or not. Some people do, some people don't. But how about that NASCAR race yesterday, the Daytona 500? 20-year-old Trevor Bayne. No one's ever heard of the guy. It's his second start in NASCAR, and he just won the race. The last 20 laps or so, he was right up there in the front. They got a push from Bobby Labonte there at the end, and he just stayed in front of everyone the last 3 or 4 laps, and he was just – kid was so excited. It was great to see a new face in NASCAR because we've seen the same 4 people for the last 5 years or so, just winning every race.
Not even the same 4 people. It's been one person, Jimmy Johnson, the past 5 years dominating the sport. I'll go next since Ryan stole my thunder there. I was going to go with NASCAR. And yeah, it was, as Ryan said, the kid's 20 years old. He's exactly 2 months older than me. So think about, me being out there racing in the Daytona 500 against people like Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., these professional athletes. I call it a sport. That's a lot of work out there for what they have to do. I was raised following NASCAR. I've been to multiple races, so it's something that I've always liked, and it was something that really touched me. I actually teared up a little bit watching the end of the race there, because it was just watching this kid achieve his dreams, and I hear you guys chuckling on the side of me and everything, but it was just a kid. It was a kid reaching for his dreams, and he achieved it. So I mean, you can't hate on him for that. As he crossed the line, he said, "Are you kidding me?" You know, he was in complete shock, and to just be in that moment, it's something just fantastic. So I completely congratulate the kid. Hopefully, he has somewhat of a successful career, and this isn't just like a one-hit wonder thing, where he does real good, wins this race, and we never hear of him again. But I guess we'll let Bill talk about what excited him this weekend. Probably pit basketball.
They drove really fast and they turned left. Wow. I tuned in with 5 laps left. You know how long it took me? How long it took them, rather, to end the race? 45 minutes. You got to be kidding me. And the reason this kid got the lead is because the guy pulled in the wrong lane before the restart. Anyways, what was most exciting? We rarely talk about hockey on this show. Yesterday was the most hockey I've been able to watch in what seems about 10 years. I think it was Hockey Day in America. I don't know why, but it was great. It was hockey game after hockey game after hockey game. It was amazing.
Got any more to go on that? Well, how enjoyable were those hockey games, Bill?
It was just the Pens, I think, lost in the shootout. That was a close game. All their games over the last 3 weeks have, because no Cross or Malkin. But just the fact, you know, the only games we've been able to watch, because stuff being on Versus and half the country not having it, is I've only been able to watch Penguin games of what's on NBC on Sunday. But I was able to catch pieces from at least 4 or 5 games yesterday.
Did you guys watch the All-Star game?
That doesn't count. That didn't happen.
I didn't watch that.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the NBA All-Star game.
If you found that entertaining, you need a lobotomy right now.
It was ridiculous. I watched the highlights and I watched a little bit of it, and there was no defense. I saw LeBron dunk one time, and there was like 4 feet on each side of him, just wide open. He just ran down the lane and crammed it. But I want to clarify one thing. Kobe did not dunk on LeBron in that game. LeBron was like 3 steps behind him and came up and like touched the piece of the ball as Kobe was dunking. And they had it on SportsCenter of like dunk of the night, Kobe dunks on LeBron. That didn't happen.
I think dunk of the night was Blake Griffin. That was pretty cool, driving that car in there.
Yeah.
I mean, NBA's a total circus, but that was actually pretty cool to watch him jump over a car.
That was a scripted ending. The sponsors was sponsors was Kia, and
they had the Kia out there, and they had
plays in LA. Come on.
It really, honestly, the dunk wasn't that impressive. Yeah. He jumped about 2 feet over the car.
Circus.
He jumped over like equivalent of like this table.
I was wondering where the elephants
I could probably do that.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, the show's gone pretty crazy tonight. It seems like it's a little unscripted and crazy.
You mentioned NASCAR and it just derails the whole show.
Bill gets a little heated. Calm down, Bill.
Okay, it's time for a quick commercial break. Then we'll come back to discuss the final 3 topics of the night. Welcome back to Slippery Rock Sports Forum. Once again, I'm Madeline Williams, and let's go over the scores as of now. Tim, you have 8, Bill, you have 7, and Ryan, you have 6. All right, let's get back to the topics. Our 4th topic goes back to SRU sports and men's baseball. In the preseason poll, the men were ranked to finish 2nd this year in PSACs, and they won their opening doubleheader this weekend. Tim, how do you feel about the Rock's chances this season?
Well, from what they showed us and what people were saying preseason, it should be pretty good. They should be able to have a solid year. They're ranked 2nd behind Cal, who is the defending PSAC champion. So they got some good chances, and you know that was 2 solid games start off the season. There was a grand slam by senior Matt Howard. He was looking like Ryan Howard out there in that grand slam. So you know, hey, if he's playing good like that, you have him hitting well. Their pitching's good. I think all the pieces are there, so good coaching staff and everything. They should be able to pull it together and have a solid season. I'm looking forward to attending some games and seeing what they're able to do, but I definitely think they should be able to live up to that, 2nd place and maybe fight for the PSAC championship this year.
Yeah, being picked number 2 is great. I mean, we're behind Cal in another sport. I mean, it seems every sport it's Cal, IUP, Mercyhurst that we're behind. Every single sport. Rock can't get number 1 preseason like anything. I mean, they're trailing Cal and if you can beat Cal, you can probably win this division once again, like in football and like in other sports. And I think, as evidenced by the win this weekend, they can actually probably win this western part of the conference.
Well, I think that, well, first of all, they were picked to win the conference last year, and they stumbled mightily down the stretch. I think picking them second is right where they should be. I mean, they're 4-0 right now. As Tim said, Howard's playing like Ryan Howard at the Grand Slam. I think he had a triple to drive in the winning run in the same game. So that gave him a 5 RBI day. They've got a nice core in the lineup with him and Adam Jury. I think that they can contend with Cal. Are they going to do it? I'm not so sure, because they haven't shown it in the past that they could live up to expectations.
Yeah, I think it's a new year, and once again, it seems like the same topic with every single sport. It's like Ryan said, can they live up to their expectations, and can they beat that top-tier team? Every sport, there's that one team that stands out there, and we always seem to be right there in that tier right below them where we have a chance, but we just seem to fall short. So that's what it's really going to come down to. Are they going to be able to be consistent this year? Is their pitching going to be solid? Are their bats going to stay hot? Whenever they have cold streaks with hitting or pitching, is something else going to be able to pick up and keep them in contention and keep them winning games? That's what it comes down to. It's going to have to be all-around team effort from every position if they want to win the PSAC. There's competitive teams out there, and for them to get to the top, they're going to have to play solid all year. And I think they're going to end up falling into that second spot. I think Cal is just going to prove to be too much once again, and they're going to end up right there in that second spot.
All right.
Well, it doesn't mean that the year's over because you're picked second. You're second out of, I think, 10 or 11 teams. So, like Tim said, all facets got to be hitting it at full cylinders the whole way. I think they're pitching a lot of them down at the end of last year in the second half. That can't be this time around, obviously. But they're right there. They're going to be right there until the end, according to the predictors. So. Yeah,
baseball's a weird game. You get hot streaks, cold streaks, injuries all over the place. At least for MLB, it's a long season. Obviously, it's not as long for college baseball, but you still have hot streaks, cold streaks, pitchers throwing wild some days. So they can just keep their bats rolling. I think they'll be just fine for this conference this year.
Don't forget about the weather. We've got 3 inches of snow out there now. That's why they're not playing here, but baseball season here is always crappy, so that plays a role.
Yeah, I remember last year it seemed like every other game was getting rained out, postponed. So the whole schedule at the beginning of the season was almost completely changed by the time things finally got started, because it rains almost every day up here in the spring. So that'll play a factor definitely.
Good.
Hey, I think we're done now.
Okay. All right, there's 2 topics left for the show tonight. Let's discuss this weekend of upsets in college basketball with number 2 Texas, number 3 Ohio State, number 4 Pitt, and number 7 Notre Dame all losing over the weekend. Which of those upsets do you think was most unexpected, Ryan?
I think they're all pretty unexpected. I mean, basketball is always kind of a crazy game with the upsets, but you see Kansas, Ohio State, Pitt, Texas. Who's next, really? This I think, is number 1. No one can keep the spot down. It's as crazy as the 2009 NCAA football season, where you had one team get up there 2 weeks later, they were down to number 10. It's just been crazy all year in basketball, and it's going to be a great March Madness.
Yeah, I think that, say most unexpected, I think when you look at the score, Ohio State losing by 13 to Purdue was rather unexpected, even though Purdue's a ranked team, and they move up to 8th now. So that was somewhat unexpected. You don't really think Nebraska is going to come in there and beat Texas like they did with making some late layups, some late free throws, and being able to pull that one off. St. John's, they've been the story of the year. It seems like every big team, they're able to take them down. They're like the David out there against the Goliaths. But other than that, they haven't been too consistent. But people expected it to be a close game because they've played close games against big teams and they usually beat them. So it wasn't too much of a surprise that Pitt lost. Notre Dame, I don't really think they're as good as their rating shows. And losing to West Virginia is always a solid team when it comes to basketball. So that wasn't too unexpected. So I definitely want to say that the loss of Ohio State by as much as it was probably the most unexpected one.
Well, what didn't surprise me was the end of the Pitt game, because before St. John's inbound on that ball, I turned to my buddy who I was watching with, and I said, if there's anything a Jamie Dixie team can't do is defend the inbound in the waning moments of a game. And look what happened. Hardy drove baseline to baseline and laid it in. Looked just like the Villanova game when they laid it a couple years ago. But what really surprised me was getting the updates on ESPN after that game, seeing Texas on the ropes. Now, Tim said Nebraska made a layup here and a layup there. They were up double digits at a couple points in that game. Texas only lost by 2 or 3, but I think that's the most unexpected, because that means now Pitt can still get a 1 seed, and they can still get the top seed in the Big East, because West Virginia, who I disagree isn't always a solid basketball team, at least not until the last 2 or 3 years. They knocked off Notre Dame, and that's the only team that's beaten Pitt before St. John's won in the conference, so that defends their 2-game lead.
Yeah, I think Pitt they'll get number 1 seed. They'll be solid. And like you were saying about Nebraska, they were up by a lot, and they missed some free throws late in the game, and that's what let Texas come back into that one. But looking forward to March Madness and thinking about what we're going to see when it comes down to that, it looks like the unpredictability is already starting. The madness is already beginning, and we're not even in the conference tournaments yet. So it should be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it because there's really not that one team that stands out that, they're the big-time favorite. In past years, we've had the Kansas. Last year, Duke stood out, and people said, they're probably going to the finals. So there's really not that one team. Every team has shown that they can lose to anybody, so we'll see what happens when it comes time.
You've got 5 or 6 teams that are legitimate number 1 seed candidates. You don't see that a lot. And any way it goes at this point, I'm a Pitt fan. Even if they get a 2, you can't really feel left out because all these teams are inconsistent. No one's separating themselves from the pack.
Yeah, who needs March Madness when you have February Madness? It's been ridiculous all season. Ohio State gets to number 1, they fall again, and Duke was number 1. They lost to Florida State. I haven't heard about Florida State in basketball for a long time. I don't think I ever have, actually.
They've made the tournament the last 3 years.
Yeah,
I saw them in Buffalo.
I don't even know.
I got to do the tomahawk in Buffalo in the first round last year.
They've been picking it up lately. The ACC has some of those lower teams that have been competitive. And speaking of the ACC, one team to watch whenever the madness starts, Bill's hating on me right now, is UNC. Every year, last year we weren't, but right now we got our team going together. We're probably going to get a 4th seed, and we're going to be competitive when it comes time. We're going to beat Pitt in the Elite 8.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how the seeding is.
All right, we'll take a quick look at the scores before we go into our final topic. Tim, you have 12, Bill, you have 11, and Ryan, you're still in there, you have 9. Okay, it's our final topic, so it's going to go down to a bunch of the different sporting events that are happening over the next few weeks and months, such as March Madness, Major League Baseball, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and NASCAR. Bill, which one are you most excited about?
March Madness for me, because I usually try to get tickets and go. Like I said, I got to go up in Buffalo last year. I saw West Virginia, Syracuse, Gonzaga, Florida State. It's both from elaborate and it's already starting. There's nothing like it. You have your brackets ready that Sunday after the conference tournaments, and it's got a feel of Super Bowl Sunday, Selection Sunday as they call it. Nothing beats it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with March Madness, but because we've been talking about that for the last 5 minutes, I'm also gonna say I'm excited for the NHL playoffs. And even though Bill's going to hate this, I'm excited for the NBA playoffs for one reason of what the Miami Heat will do. I think that's really what a lot of people are going to be watching, is when the NBA playoffs start, where the Heat are ranked, how they play in the first couple rounds, if they can get to a championship, because that's what everybody expects them to do this year. They've been the talk, and now the talk is, are they going to be able to get by the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals? So we're going to see how that turns out, and that's what I'm really excited for. I'm always excited for March Madness, and my excitement is just as high as usual. And I want to see how the Penguins do in the NHL playoffs and how that all goes. But one thing that I want to really look forward to is how the Miami Heat play, and can LeBron finally get his 1 ring?
And I actually have it more of a schedule. I have first it's March Madness, then the start of baseball, and then the NHL playoffs. Because you have March Madness, which is always just insane every year. That's why it's called March Madness, picking your brackets, trying to beat all your friends. And then you have Major League Baseball starting, and Pirates aren't, the team to beat or anything.
You still have a baseball team?
Yeah, there's a baseball team here.
I wish we didn't.
But I just like watching baseball. I think it's just great to watch. I think it's better to go in person, personally. And then after that, the NHL playoffs start. And the chase for the Stanley Cup is always just as crazy as March Madness, if not even more crazy. And if last year's evidence, you see Montreal Canadiens and the Flyers coming out of nowhere to make the Eastern Conference Finals. Canadiens beat the Penguins with an almost no-name goalie. It was insane. last year.
I think we have to give props to the NHL playoffs. That would be second on my list because if you look at it with all of sports, the NHL playoffs are the second most unpredictable behind the NFL. I mean, I think each of the last 3 years, a top seed has lost in either conferences. I think Washington went out. Yeah, because
Washington went out to Montreal.
Beat Washington last year.
Year before that, San Jose went out.
You can't pick it. You just can't pick it. That's how exciting it is. And it's a 7-game series. It's like an acquired taste, and it's different from your one-game do-or-die now in the NFL. You know, it's a week and a half, and a lot of them go 6 or 7 games, so it's great.
Yeah, that's one thing that I wrote a column actually last year for the Rocket about the parity in the NHL and how close everybody was after Montreal upset Washington. Just because that's what the NHL is really getting to that point where they have a lot of solid teams and everybody can compete. So when it comes down to it, you know, an 8 seed who's in there, they could have just struggled through a stretch and you know, get on a hot streak toward the playoffs, kind of like we were talking about for men's baseball here, men's basketball here. If they can get on that hot streak going into the playoffs, well, that's how it works out with the NHL. Montreal was just kind of, you know, snuck into the playoffs, played solid, and next thing you know, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's definitely something we're going to look at, and I think that would be what ranks second to me. And the third thing is, as I said, you know, the NBA playoffs is just something I wanted to talk about because I think that's going to be a main focus after March Madness. And another thing that we're going to be watching, I think, over the next few months is what Tiger Woods does when golf starts. You know, is he going to be able to come back? He already played in the tournament this year. He had a couple good rounds, and he fell out at the end. So I think that's going to be one thing that's going to be being watched.
Right now, Bill Murray has more wins than Tiger Woods. Bill Murray.
Yeah, won the Pro-Am tournament. Yeah. So that can't be good for the game of golf when Bill Murray has more wins than Tiger Woods does. So we'll see how that turns out for the PGA Tour.
I'm ready for the Masters, though. I am looking forward to that and the U.S. Open. I get a chance to watch it in June. Yeah. I always love watching that.
All right, Tim, you did come out on top. You had 15, Bill, you had 13, and Ryan, you had 11. Good show. I was actually up in Buffalo last year. That was my early birthday present. We should have gotten lunch.
There.
Yeah. All right, so Tim, you get some FaceTime to say whatever you want.
All right. Well, I'm going to throw out a little pitch here for me and for Zach Tanner, who's the producer of this show. Check out Getting Later, Wednesday night. I'm going to be on there performing. Yeah, I know. This is just throwing out a little prop right here, a little pitch, a sales pitch. I'm going to be performing, and also I'm releasing my rap album on March 15th. It's called The Discovery. So you'll get a preview of that on Wednesday night, Getting Later. So everybody tune into that, WSRU.TV.com, Twitter, whatever else, it's on there. Zach's cracking up. Zach's cracking up back there. I'm shameless, Zach. I had to do it. But that's all I got to say.
What's your rapper name?
TD.
TD.
Like, keep it simple.
It's good. I listen to some of this, actually.
See?
All of it, but okay.
Yeah,
anyway.
Madeline, biggest fan right here.
Should call your first album Touchdown by TD.
No, I want The Discovery.
No. Thanks for watching Slippery Hawk Sports Forum. Have a good night.